Good Friday morning. Here's a great text in the letter to the Romans, okay? Boy, who doesn't go through the experience that he describes here, okay? Think about it. I'll read it to you then. Think about it. It says, brothers and sisters, I know the good does not dwell in me, that is in my flesh. The willing is ready at hand, but doing the good is not. For I do not do the good I want, but I do the evil I do not want. Now, if I do what I do not want, it's no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me. I would say vice, you see. So then I discovered the principle that when I want to do right, evil is at hand, vice. For I take delight in the law of God in my inner self, but I see in my members another principle at war with the law of my mind, taking me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. That's called vice. See, if this guy were a Greek, I mean, those Romans would have got it. They would have got it. They'd say he's talking about vice, you see? Okay? Miserable one that I am, who will deliver me from this mortal body? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. That's great writing. That's Romans' letter to the Romans. They would have got this thing. They would have gotten this. The Romans were steeped in Greek philosophy. They would have gotten it. The trouble is, I told my kids this in class today. I was dancing with them just on this topic, vice and virtue. If you develop virtue, then the doing of the good you ought to do, comes more facilely to you. But if you've steeped yourself in vice, in habits of vice, selfishness, things like that, it's very, very difficult, very, very difficult to do the right thing, to do the thing that is virtuous. You know where you see this? One of the most common forms of it? And then that is alcohol abuse and food abuse. When we eat the wrong stuff, we got a sweet taste for sweets, okay? Whatever it is. Or we become addicted to booze or addicted to sugar. We have sugar cravings. Or we have alcohol cravings. And though we know I shouldn't drink, I shouldn't, but I do. I do the things I don't want to do, the things I want to do, I don't do. Why? Because I have habits that prevent me from doing the good I want to do. They're called vices. There's Aristotle, they're vices, you see. Anybody who's an alcoholic, especially in AA, knows what I'm saying. I learned so much from those guys. When I did retreats in Baltimore, we had AA retreats all the time. And when we had high school retreats, we always brought in AA people who used to give them a lecture on alcohol. It was what you see the great struggle, and you see it takes a community of support to get you to stay sober. I have profound respect for AA and other forms of societies dealing with addiction, because they recognize you can't just say, I know I shouldn't do it, I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Easy said, easy done. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It takes a tremendous amount of caring and a great deal of discipline and support to overcome one's vices. I'll tell you, for me, whatever it was smoking. Holy cow. For those of you that were ex-smokers, tell me, was it easy quitting? I remember the craving. It took a year for me to get it out of my system. I mean it, where I stopped craving the smokes. That's the truth. And you see it with people addicted to sugar. Sometimes the worst forms of addiction, some of the worst forms are the subtler ones, the ones that are not evil or bad, it's they're indulged, like sugar, cookies, sweets, right? Whatever. And we become habitually abusers because we take in more calories than we should, and we get hooked on it. See? And we gain weight, and we endanger our lives, not by gross sin and evil, but by habits of sin, as it were, habits of self-abuse. Even though it doesn't look like much. Well, I just had one more cookie, then one more. Isn't that right? Any of you that have struggled with weight, and I did. I lost 80 pounds 13 years ago. And I wasn't eating sweets. It's just I have a weakness for sausage. Holy Christmas trees. Oh, I used to make a dinner. Holy mackerels. trillion calories. I'd make a bunch of sausage and pasta and all the rest. Yeah, okay, that's good, but I was doing it all the time. My weight went through the ceiling. I was fortunate. I had a guy, my student, Charlie D'Angelo. He's famous. If you look him up, he's famous. He is famous. More than this, he deals with weight reduction, but lifestyle. And Charlie helped me lose 80 pounds. He's all over the world. I mean, you got to see him. He's famous, okay? Well, Charlie was my student, and I remember in class saying, I'm trying to lose weight, and he came up and says, come to my clinic. The kid is 20 years old. He tells me to come to his clinic. So he finally talked me into it, and I went. And he put me on a diet, and it was a stringent diet, but it worked. I lost 75 or 80 pounds and kept it off. How? By seeing him every month. See? It's like AA. This is a real text here. The good I want to do, it doesn't come easy because I have vices that have to be overcome, not just mentally, but habitually, by habits of behavior. He's right. I'm using examples of food, booze, this and that, but it's very difficult to overcome vices like selfishness because you don't even know you're selfish anymore. If you make yourself the center of everything, you don't know how to look out beyond the mirror. You just see everything in the mirror, which is a reflection of yourself. I've seen that wreck so many marriages. Selfishness, not infidelity, lack of fidelity. Habits of selfishness. Self-centeredness. See, you don't. I gave examples of booze and sugar and whatever, but it can be anything. It's wherever you build habits that are, that in a sense are vicious. They're vice-ridden, and they isolate and they corrupt, as opposed to virtues that liberate and make you free. See? Makes you free. You talk to anybody who's in AA, how glad they are to be free of the addiction. Going to the meeting once a month or once a week is nothing in comparison to the addiction and slavery they went through. Anybody who's quit smoking can tell you how glad they are they don't smoke anymore. Nobody says, God, I wish I could keep smoking. No, they don't. I've never heard anybody say that because whatever they got out of it in the beginning, they lost it at the back end. And I'm speaking from experience. I used to inhale cigars. Think about that. I used to put 5 cigars in each pocket. The truth. So I smoked 10 cigars a day, and I was inhaling them. I'd be dead by now if I didn't quit smoking 40 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever it was. Right out. Well, when did I quit? 1972 or 82, around there. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, I quit. That was horrible. That was so hard. That's just what he's describing. That's what Romans is describing. Virtue and vice. Aristotle did it 400 years before him. And it is the secret to life, is to cultivate the virtues, and you'll live a free life. You will live and flourish. Cultivate the vices. Go ahead. And one day you wake up and you find out that you can't live this way anymore, and the ardor with which you have to, how hard you have to work to overcome those vices, and often with the help of others. That's really true. And the sacrifices you have to make, often it costs you your friends. You can't go boozing anymore, guys. You can't go hitting the bars at night when you come home. You have to change your life. Okay? That's a true story. See, that's when I'm reading St. Paul's letter to the Romans. You could be reading Aristotle, except he transcends it. He uses the notion of sin, and he's right. It's not just surviving this life, but the implications of eternity. Nonetheless, you don't have to be a Christian to know how right he is. All you have to do is understand and know the human heart, its virtues and its vices. And if you choose the vice, you will die alone. If you choose to be virtuous, you will always be together with someone. You will not die alone because you will live as a friend to your spouse, your children, to the people of your life. If you live by vice and selfishness, you might have somebody around you when you die, but they're not going to really care. I remember that one line where the guy said about a woman who died, there are no wet eyes here. That's a sad, sad, sad line. There are no wet eyes. Who cares? That's terrible. As a witness to a person who lived a life of selfishness, so much so that who cares?